All right, folks, let's go ahead and get started. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to today's dual IDMS and Datacom community webcast. Before I hand you off to Sheila and the team, just a couple things I need to go over. First, if you have questions during today's webcast, and we always hope that you do, please use the questions box along the right-hand side of your screen under the control panel to ask those. We'll get through as many as we can during our time together today. If for some reason we don't get to your question, if we run out of time or if something requires some research, I will capture your question and all your contact information for the team to follow up with you. We are recording today's session. That's why your lines are all muted. Excuse me. The replay will be available out probably tomorrow morning out in both the Datacom and the IDMS communities. And the last thing from me is we want to make sure that these sessions are valuable for you. So a short survey is going to pop up at the end. If you could stick around for an extra minute or so and give us some feedback, we would all really appreciate it. That's it for me, so take it away, Sheila.
Thank you, Lynn, and thank you all for joining us for today's webcast. We certainly appreciate your time and consideration. Today, we're happy to formally announce the GA release of the database API generator. This concept has been socialized with our communities for 2+ years now, and we're excited to offer this new feature to all of you as part of your IDMS 19.0 and Datacom 15.1 based products. My name is Sheila Miller. I'm an offering manager here at Broadcom, helping to shape and support the strategy for our database products. And today I have the pleasure to co-present with a couple of my team members. My name should look familiar. Dave Ross, our IDMS subject matter expert and principal modernization architect, along with Vamsi Alamanchili, our software engineer, also helping to shape our modernization offering. So thanks, guys, for your help in delivering this message today. And a special welcome to our guest speaker, Mark the Potter from Colruyt, an IDMS customer who will be sharing insight on one of our Beyond Code offerings that we'll get into in just a few minutes. So thanks again, Mark, for your willingness to present today, and thanks to all of you for taking the time to join us. We certainly appreciate it. All right, so before we get started, we're obligated to share our standard legal disclaimer that this presentation is based on current information and subject to change at any time without notice. So this is a snapshot of our agenda. In this session, we'll briefly review our database modernization strategy that will include an update on what we term as our Beyond Code offering, and more specifically, the benefits of our Embrace Open workshops. That's what we'll hear from Mark. And then Dave will provide an overview on the database API generator capabilities before turning things over to Vamsi. Vamsi will show you a quick demo on how to quickly and easily generate REST APIs with the API generator. And then we'll have a call to action on, what's next, how do you get started, followed by Q&A. So that's our agenda. All right, so I'm going to touch briefly on the database modernization strategy. So everything we develop in IDMS and Datacom fall under these themes: embrace open along with simplify and automate. It's really all about extending and simplifying the mainframe value, and more specifically, the IDMS and Datacom value. So we're basically providing more modern tooling so that you can manage your systems and help facilitate user-developed interfaces and dashboards. And it's really all about leveraging the existing investments that you've made in IDMS and Datacom for the last 20, 30, more likely 40+ years, and providing more simple ways for you to maintain your existing and build new applications through the use of APIs and services. Those are the top two themes: optimization, security, and enablement continue to be key focus areas as well as part of our long-term support. We're always making sure that we're exploiting the latest hardware and software platform features. Of course, security and encryption enhancements are always top of mind, along with keeping up with all the necessary tech currency and refreshed education offerings. So these are all the things that we think about as we continue to make our investments in our database products. Today, we will be focused more specifically on these two things: the embrace open and the simplify and automate. So having said that, our strategy is not just all about product enhancements and new capabilities. It also includes things that we can do as we term Beyond Code to expand and help our customers all as part of your existing base license. So we'll move from left to right on the slide. So the first section here is about building a new generation of mainframers. That's where our Vitality, our web-based training, the mainframe insights for executives, they all offer value from an educational perspective. The second example is optimizing your mainframe environment through programs like MRI assessments and service engagements. And then lastly, the benefits of innovating with confidence. So this is where we'd like to spend a bit of time today and more specifically talk about the value of the database Embrace Open workshop engagements and partnership with our customers. Okay, so just a little bit more on the workshops themselves before I turn it over to Mark. We started rolling out these workshops just over a year or so ago to assist with the onboarding of new product options to help with the adoption and learning of our new capabilities. Based on many conversations that we have with our customers regarding our product strategy and the delivery of new capabilities, the benefit and the value are understood, but oftentimes our customers say that they just don't have the support or the appropriate skills to get things off the ground. So that challenge presented an opportunity for us to improve our customer user experience by offering interactive customer engagements that help you get onboard faster and leveraging the new tech capabilities that we're delivering sooner. So this workshop is delivered in a phased approach, and I know that picture is a bit small, but it's still visible on the right-hand side of the slide there. All these workshops are customizable based on your needs, but in essence, each phase dictates the actions to be taken in the subsequent phases. So as part of this process, we'll work with you to fully understand your project goals and initiatives. We identified the end-to-end use case and the associated business drivers, what your critical success factors are from functionality to usability. We determine the right mix of team members to support the overall effort. That means on the customer side as well as the Broadcom side. And really the key to success is collaboration, working together in order for you to gain firsthand knowledge and learn best practices from the moment that you download to the implementation until you're successfully using the functionality and benefiting from the intended value of whatever capability is that you want to leverage. And that's really the outcome. And then once the engagement is complete, we establish checkpoint cadence meetings to make sure that things are progressing along smoothly and your experience is a positive one. And if it's not a positive one, we need to understand that as well. So you can either improve the process itself or fill a gap in our solution. So we look at this as a journey together, a partnership, and taking more of a collaborative approach to enable our users to become proficient in the innovations we're delivering. So Mark in the co-root team is the first customer to engage with us on this particular workshop where we assisted with their end-to-end project needs, leveraging a combination of the IDMS Systems API and Zoe. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Mark to share insight on their workshop experience. So Mark, over to you.
Thank you, Sheila. I will start by introducing myself. I am Mark de Potter. I work for Colruyt Group in Belgium, and I have over 16 years of experience in a mainframe environment, of which the last 3 years I'm working as a system engineer for the databases on the mainframe platform, with main focus on the IDMS network databases. We had a use case that we wanted to be able to proactively take some measures to prevent outages, to make sure that the system is running smoothly and to basically have little to no issues. But with the current toolings that were available, you can have the live feed, but there was no real integrated tooling where you can see over time what is happening. When we heard of the Systems API, we felt this might be something very interesting. And also our operator team, who is monitoring issues and incidents, they're all very young and new people who have no technical knowledge on IDMS. So a lot of valuable time gets lost when an issue occurs outside of office hours or even during office hours, because they lack the skills of easily logging on to the database. So it takes a lot of time before they can escalate things. Based on this use case, we partnered up with Broadcom. where we provided them with our use case and we asked them if they could help us, because within our company, I am the person with the least experience. So we all have a lot of experience working on the mainframe in the green screens, but with modern technologies such as Zoe, APIs, dashboards, and other toolings, we have little to no experience, with which makes it a little bit hesitant on our part to start implementing it, because we really didn't know how to start and how the outcome would be. Broadcom helped us very well with this Embrace Open workshop. It's a very well organized flow. There are a lot of steps that are taken, and it's well planned. So also that when going to the next phase in the workshop, they make sure that no steps are missed, that all the information is captured, that all the information is clear, and that everybody is on the same page, so that we can all move forward in the same direction. In the more final stages of the Embrace Open workshop, at a certain moment, there was the on-site implementation, where key members of the Broadcom team who are involved in the workshop, they came to our site so that they could really hands-on help us on installing and configuring the API, the dashboards, getting everything set up on the server side, and basically make sure that we could leverage the API in the modern toolings without having to struggle. One of the great benefits that I experienced as a customer during the Embrace Open workshops is that in every step of the process, we had a direct line of communication to the Broadcom members involved, so that if we had questions, we could quickly sync with specific members in the Broadcom team and get the necessary technical or functional information that was required, so that we could move forward at a fast pace. Basically, yeah, it was a very interesting collaboration, and we experienced it as a huge success story, because without the help of Broadcom, we would have lost a lot of time in trying to find out how to implement and configure the API and some of the other toolings. And due to this direct communication, hands-on help, and the very professional and very valuable help we received from Broadcom throughout every step of the way, we received the feeling of being highly valuated as a customer, because implementing the API and installing it not only took a lot of time from our end, but also the people from Broadcom invested a lot of time in helping us with that. And we feel more as a partner rather than as a customer throughout this journey. And with this, Sheila, I would like to thank you and the entire Broadcom team again for all the help, and I would like to give it back to you.
Thank you, Mark, so very much. I really appreciate you sharing your experience and the associated benefits. It's truly appreciated. It's always very valuable to hear directly from our customers. So thanks again to you and the Colo team for your partnership in taking this end-to-end journey with us. We look forward to hearing more about your specific use case outcomes in the upcoming FY24 MTE, and maybe even a sneak peek in one of our upcoming webcasts. So thanks very much, Mark. Thanks again. Excellent. All right, so that's going to bring us to the next slide here around executing our strategy. Mark just shared an example of how CodeRoot is leveraging our performance-based systems APIs in conjunction with Zoe, giving users the ability to quickly and easily expose performance metrics that can be used with open source tools to create dashboards to monitor system performance. As part of today's session, we'll be focused more on the developer persona and talk about how they can leverage the new database API generator to create REST APIs that basically give them an opportunity to really significantly simplify the development of new web-based applications by automating the creation of APIs. So in essence, developers can create APIs that access IDMS and Datacom data to build new mobile or web-based applications. It's enabling modern access for like internal and or external customer-facing type, web applications or requirements, and they could be actually the existing web-based applications they have that you would want to plug some more data into. But because of the nature of the VS Code, which is leveraged, which is in the background snapshot there on the right-hand side of the slide, and the generator automation capabilities, the developer requires little to no knowledge of the underlying database. And on the foreground snapshot is a sample health check app, also on the right-hand side of that slide, that we developed in-house using the API generator to create the systems API endpoints that feed into this application. So more to come on this during Vamsi's demo. I don't want to steal his thunder. But before that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Dave to provide details on the architecture and usage of the database API generator. So Dave, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you, and I'll move to the first slide. And if you're on mute, Dave, we can't hear you.
Yeah, I forgot. I forgot to turn it back on. Right. So what does it mean to, have a database API? Well, one very, the most simplest case would be to think about we've got a database record typically described by something like a COBOL copybook, and that sort of maps naturally to a modern UI, or not user interface, but modern programming interface type of thing, where it could be represented as a document in XML or JSON. This shows an example of a JSON document. So in you can think of an API that can issue HTTP GET requests. That's what APIs do, and to get a specific payroll record, and then it gets returned as a JSON response. Or likewise, you could imagine a web service that takes data in a JSON document and updates your database using an HTTP post request. Modern APIs are based on HTTP verbs: get, post, delete, put. Those are the various verbs that we'd see. So this is sort of just a general model of what you might see. Next slide, please. Okay, so here's a case study. We worked with a very large customer in the US that was interested in providing a modern user interface into their existing network database. And the way this worked is they wanted to build a browser-based interface that could, process claims, and so they had an application server that served up the web pages and things in JavaScript and all the various React or whatever the technology they did, and that needed to get the data out of IDMS. But it had to be transparent. So in the middle, they put an API server. This turned out to be a Tomcat server based on Spring Boot, the common open source implementation of web services. And they used then JDBC to access IDMS. And what we helped them do is build a transformation of those JDBC calls to produce plain old Java objects, could then be returned to the web application. And on the right-hand side, then we used the existing IDMS SQL capabilities that could expose a network database. This is an an IDMS model, if you will, but the similar type of thing would also works for Datacom. Very similar architecture. So this was all manually coded, and that's okay. You can go to the next slide. That's good. But we realized in doing this, and in fact, one of the consultants that the government had hired to do that pointed out, why don't we generate all this stuff? And so it turns out that why not? So what we're proposing, what we're going to show you today, not proposing, it's GA, is a sort of a tool or a set of capabilities that has a VS Code extension. The VS Code is a really popular open source free development editor and framework. It's really popular. I think it might be one of the most popular development environments in the world now, especially for web-based types of development. And what this does is it has what we call a database explorer. It's a typical Explorer window that lets you point at your database servers and discover the tables and views and procedures. And then with just a couple of mouse clicks, it will generate code. This generate code is Java code that generates a Spring Boot compliant set of Java classes that implement an API service, and then gets compiled, can be easily compiled into an API server that can then be deployed and provide an interface into your database. So I guess if you look at the top there, you see we've got sort of just the artifacts we created, JSON document that sort of describes the table, and then some Java classes and tiny little eye chart print that you can't really see, but Ramsey will show you a little bit more what it is. And then you can then have the API that's generated. That's an example of what they call Swagger documentation that's automatically generated, that allows you to see how to invoke the API, and you can even try it out. And it provides documentation for the web developer, who is the persona on the right, who would then build a web application that invokes those APIs in order to retrieve the data. That the web developer needs zero knowledge of the IDMS or Datacom, and the API developer just needs really kind of minimal knowledge. So next slide, please. Okay, this is a sort of the technical internals architecture of what we're providing. There's a couple of components to look at here. One is on the ZOS side, we have what we call a database metadata service. That's just a thin layer on top of the JDBC metadata that can use the JDBC driver for IDMS or Datacom to look at the databases, and anything that you can access through SQL, which is everything in both databases, can now be exposed through this metadata service. The API generator is, as I mentioned, the VS Code extension. It runs off of ZOS and on the user's workstation, either a Linux, Windows, or Mac workstation. And that uses the metadata service to implement that Explorer and discover the tables. The reason for this architecture is it really simplifies the VS Code extension. You don't really need to worry about integrating JDBC drivers into your VS Code extension. And it sort of hides that. So then we have that generates the sample code. That sample code then, it generates the code into a sample project with we also have a set of common libraries that we provide that then generates the business application server. That server is by default, it can be run on ZOS, not quite yet. That can be run on ZOS and integrated with Zoe, which we'll see in the next couple slides, but it can also, in principle, be run off platform. So these application servers, they're Spring Boot servers, they can run anywhere that Java runs. So, and then last but not least, we have the REST client application. That's the sort of the web server that the end users are actually going to invoke, that uses HTTP requests to invoke the services. Now we can go on to the next slide. Okay, I mentioned that it can run on ZOS with Zoe. For people that might not be familiar with it, Zoe is an open source framework for the mainframe that provides a number of services. The one that is the most relevant to what we're doing here is it provides a mainframe-based gateway, and that mainframe-based gateway allows you to expose multiple web services through a single server, single port. So you've got a very limited surface that could be attacked or that needs to be secured in order to have a multitude of APIs, and it provides for scalability, since the caller of the APIs doesn't really need to know about how many real application servers you have behind it. So it's kind of a classic gateway. There are other gateway technologies for distributed platforms, but Zoe provides that for the mainframe, and it enables developers to use all these modern tools to invoke mainframe services. So that's kind of it for a quick nutshell what Zoe is. We'll go on to the next slide, please. And here's how we can be integrated with Zoe, with the APIs that both the tools that we're providing and the APIs that you could generate. So we've got the Zoe API mediation layer gateway. We have our product API servers, such as the IDMS systems API and the Datacom systems API. Those run on ZOS, integrated with Zoe, and then can communicate directly with the mainframe. And then also you can deploy your business API servers in the same environment and receive the same benefits that our API servers receive. And then the client applications, they just access everything through the Zoe gateway. So with that, I think that's the last slide, Sheila, right? For that, before we get back to Vamsi's demo.
Yeah. So now, thank you, Dave, for that. And just now we'll shift into the demo, and Vamsi, I guess you can take it from here. I think that Glenn will give you.
Can you make me presenter? Okay.
There you go. Got it.
Yeah. Okay. Can you see my screen here? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Dave. Let me show you, or let me start this by showing this Datacom health check analyzer application. So this is a precision-based application, and the main purpose is to perform health checks that provides valuable insights, best practices, recommendations for a DBA about their Datacom environment. So before this application was developed, right, every customer used to contact our Broadcom technical staff to perform this health check analysis by providing their CXX report, and we have to go through or apply many rules manually, and it's like error prone, and it takes a lot of time, and we cannot, if you have to repeat, we need to start the same thing again, do the same thing again and again, right? So with this web application, all those rules are automated and can be run as many times as we want, and it is error free. And to say exactly, one of our next gen Datacom next gen developer developed this UI application, and this will be very helpful to provide any valuable health checks to the Datacom DBAs in the customer environments. So okay, once data is loaded into this web application, and we have many rules that we have applied here, and all this data we can perform many operations here in this tab. So which means we can do like sorting or searching or filtering kind of thing, or we can do a global filter as well quickly, and this provides like lot of we can do a lot of analysis on what kind of data that we are loading here, right? And there are many rules, as I told you, we have automated them here, and this tab will automatically apply these rules on the data that we loaded, and we will generate a very good UI kind of a health check report, where we will be showing what are all the severity issue based on the severity, like it can be critical issue or it is a major, minor, and some of them just an information issue. And also we are categorizing these into like types, like whether it is an integrity issue or it is an just an information or best practices to follow. And all, not just applying the rules and going through the current health check of the environment, but also there is an option to compare historic these health check reports historically to see how are we moving ahead. Is it like benefiting, or are we improving our health environment, or is it something bad happen and all. And so I mean, in a way, these kind of UIs will provide lot of uh, easy access to the data, and without writing many SQLs or understanding or writing any code, right? So this is part of our Datacom product going forward. And again, you might be all thinking, this is a database API generator demo, and why is he showing this Datacom health check analyzer, right? So let me try to connect you how and why I showed this, right? So in this in this, right, whenever I click this button and to load the data, right, whenever I do this, so let me enter my password. In the back end, this operation is going back to the uh, a database through an API. So basically this code is calling a doing a get request that is already available in our Datacom system REST APIs. So health check app is calling this health check endpoint that is part of our part of the Datacom system REST API, and it is using one of this endpoint and retrieving all the rows from this health check data view, and it is passing back to this. So which means it's a simple. So once the data is coming, once data is loaded, it's like we don't need to worry about much. So it's all like easily we can handle all the roles and all here. So what does that mean to again, what does that mean to database API generator, right? So as Sheila mentioned, and also Dave mentioned, this system REST API, Datacom system REST API, is using database API generator, and they generated all these without writing any code. They automatically all these APIs got generated with minimal effort. Okay, and that way, in a way that this Datacom is like an internal customer to our database API generator. Okay, so let me show how easily we can generate this these kind of APIs. And again, this is based on the business use cases, and it will be much easy once you understand, or easily how you'll understand how easily we can generate these kind of things, right? So okay, okay, this is some of you might be familiar, but this is a VS Code application, and our and we are also as part of the API generator, we are providing this DB API sample as a template or a container project with sample endpoint like employee endpoint, and also we have common code to handle or run this as a Spring Boot application and all. And we are also providing a lot of build scripts along with this, so we don't need to do any of the Java code actually, right? So once we have, so this is the VS Code extension, which is again part of our artifact. And once you install this database API generator VS Code extension, you will be able to see this database explorer, which is like a like an location where you can connect to the existing databases through a metadata service that I will show you in a minute, and we can discover all the tables in a tree view structure and all. So if you see, we have two of these database metadata services that are configured here. One of them is for IDMS, the other one is for Datacom. And if I expand this IDMS, you can see these are all the data sources. And for IDMS, these data sources are like CVs that are running in the backend. Whereas for Datacom, these data sources means these are like Datacom servers connecting back to the MUFs. Okay, let's see how each of these things display here. So if I expand this sysdemo, one of the data source, you can see all the schemas here. And if I expand, say, one of the schema, you can see the tables, views, procedures under this. And these are all the tables. And say, for example, here employee is one of the table, and you can see all the columns. All of them are all of them are available on the IDMS CV, and we are getting them here and showing them. And this is the primary key, and here are the foreign keys. Okay, let's go to one of the table and see. And here you don't see a primary key. For example, we can also do one more operation, like right click here and set employee ID as an employee ID as a unique key. And when we now we have the unique key setup, and what we can do is right click on one of the table which I want to and click and use this option called generate API. Okay, whenever if you see here, right, whenever I did this operation, generate API, there is this new folder package got created with 4 Java classes. Let me spend like a couple of minutes on each of these, and just to make you understand what we did here. So one of them is called the benefits.java with the table name, and this is called the model class. Here this represents the JSON document and for a particular table. And if you observe, these are all the columns, and all the columns will be here. And this mainly used to convert the Java the data that we are receiving to a JSON object. Okay, the next class, one more class that we are generating is called controller class, and this controller class contains the URI and URL endpoints. Like for example, one of the endpoint is to retrieve a single row, or to retrieve all the rows from this table. And whenever we use this or call this using a get request, this code will be called, and later on the data is transferred back to database, from database to browser or any caller through as a JSON object. And one more Java code that we are generating is the service class, and here is the actual heavy lifting is done. What I mean by that is, so we'll be doing the JDBC connections and preparing an SQL statement. If you see, this SQL statement is like fully coded to make sure to handle all the special characters in the columns and all. And we'll be executing this query as part of this code, and data is written back as a Java object, and this Java object data will be written back to the caller as an JSON object. So in a way, for every table we'll be generating these kind of Java classes automatically, and which will turn out to as a endpoint whenever we start this as a Spring Boot server. And not just generating the code, but if you observe, we are also generating a lot more information as a Swagger documentation, which I will show you, which will be helpful. And this will help any web application or a web developer application users to doesn't need much knowledge on how this works. It will be helpful for them to go through that. So far we have seen an SQL table that is in the IDMS database. Let's check one more application. One more table that is in the network schema. Okay, so here net is the network schema in the IDMS, and and say, for example, insurance plan is one of the record in that, and here are all the elements. And if there are any indexes, it will show up here. And if there are any sets or keys, cal keys or anything, all these things will show up. And from our perspective, from this perspective, once we enable SQL for this network schemas, it is like there is no difference between an SQL table or a network schema, and it will be like seamless. You can just work as a normal SQL table, or how other tables are working, right? So right click here and generate this, right? And you can see the similar data got generated, similar Java files got generated. And if you observe again, these are all the columns that are, these are all the elements from the network schema, and we are defining that in this model class. So as I told you, as I mentioned, our database API generator will work for network schema and all the tables and all the scenarios with respect to IDMS network tables. Yeah. So let me quickly show you from the Datacom perspective also. It again, as I told you, it will not be any different. So these are all the schemas in Datacom, and let's go to one of the schema uh, and say one of the view. And as I was showing you, this is the health check data view that's being used as part of the health check, as part of the system REST API, which is being called by UI application. So you can just right click here and do a generate. That's it. It again generated one more use case. So far what we did was we connected to Datacom or IDMS, like MUF or CV through this metadata API service. We viewed all the data through all the metadata in this tree view structure, and we identified few tables like say benefits table and this insurance plan table, or say health check data view, and we generated those tables, generated the APIs for these tables. And the next step is just build them and deploy them on the ZOS or any other platform. If you deploy it on ZOS, you can take the advantages of Zoe and Zoe API ML, and it will be it will, as Dave was mentioning, it will give a lot of flexibility. Otherwise, you can deploy it on any of the platform, any other platform. So let me quickly show, for the purpose of demo, I already deployed whatever the generated version, and I will show you how it looks. So here is how the API mediation layer looks like, and there are many services, and one of the services is this API catalog. This is like an developer or an tester environment where you can view all the API services that are running. And one of the service that we saw earlier is this database metadata service, and here are all the endpoints and in Datacom and IDMS, which we saw earlier, and these are the endpoints being used by this VS Code application here to retrieve the data. So all these endpoints are being used, and and for example, this is the Datacom system REST API, so you can view this here. But along with this, whatever we have generated so far, the business API for IDMS, we generated like say a couple of tables here, right? So one of them is the benefits table we generated, and also we generated an insurance plan table. Let's see quickly one of them how it works. Say let's go to this benefits table, and we can try this out against this schema and see. So whatever the data that we have in the IDMS table is being written to the caller in this JSON format, all the records. And once any web application uses this endpoint, can use this data and do or solve any business cases. Similarly, let me show you quickly for on this insurance plan as well. So for example, you can get all the keys. Not sure, give me a second, I think. Okay, let me see quickly here. Maybe it's taking time. Okay, sorry, it took a second. So again, this is a network schema and a network record at the back end. With this all this data, and we retrieved the data into this as a web application in the web application, right? And not just generating this web application users or any users can go through these the documentation that is being generated and can easily build their code logic based on the whatever the whether it is number or if there is any special characters and all, and this is a very good way to do that. And similarly, Datacom also, we have generated this health check app for the Datacom, and when we execute this, it will just return all the data in the JSON format from this view. Again, just to summarize, right, so far without writing much Java code or writing a minimal Java code, we are able to create these REST APIs and for the required tables, like whatever the tables we want, and build them and convert them to these REST API services, right, REST APIs, and any web application developers can easily use this to retrieve the data from IDMS or Datacom to solve any business use cases. I think I covered most of this. Sorry, I just thought I thought I showed this data, but anyways, okay. I think that's all I have, Sheila.
Excellent. Thank you, Vamsi. And I just want to close out with a couple of slides here.
Yeah.
Len, if you could give me this control back. Great.
There you go.
Excellent. Thank you. Vamsi, were you going to say something?
No, I'm not. I'm just muting myself.
Can you guys see my screen again?
Yes, we can.
Okay, awesome. All right. So again, thank you, Vamsi, for walking through. I always like to say the art of the possible, leveraging the database API generator. And just to kind of recap again on what Vamsi shared as an example of how we like the term drinking our own champagne. Our engineering teams are really realizing productivity gains using our own tooling to deliver, new product capabilities to our customers sooner. And the end result is Vamsi just showed, an example being the modern web-based application designed for DBAs so that they can gain insights to optimize the health of their systems, are being really fueled or populated by the system's API endpoints that were quickly and easily generated or created using the database API generator. So it's really that simple. The internal development and delivery of this new application that Vamsi showed you earlier was greatly accelerated compared to the manual coding effort, which would have taken significantly longer with the risk of human coding errors. And as Vamsi pointed out, one of the key aspects was the ability to regenerate the REST API when new data requirements were found. So it gave the ability to quickly refactor without any development efforts. So that was a key piece of it as well, and a key piece of it that you can leverage. So with faster time to market, you can also realize the same value using the database API generated, delivering results to your business sooner. So we hope that you take this up and have an opportunity to leverage it. I have a couple more slides just to summarize on some of the benefits of the solution that we covered. As we mentioned, the APIs allow the developers to use modern languages and frameworks to create new user interfaces and applications that leverage and enhance the investments that you have in IDMS and Datacom. Generating these APIs enables developers to create them quickly with little to no coding and limited knowledge of IDMS and Datacom. The web application developers can use these APIs with no knowledge of the mainframe or the mainframe databases, and that's a really key point. As well as the integration with Zoe, which can provide the enhanced security and scalability. So all of this ties back to the strategy that we covered at the beginning of the session. It's all about being able to extend and simplify the value, leveraging the existing investments in IDMS and Datacom, and really providing simpler ways to maintain the existing and build new applications through the use of APIs and services. So with that, we have a couple of closing out items here. One is a poll. If you can bring maybe that poll up, Lynn.
Yep, there you go.
Thank you. We're just interested to see if you have a current or future project need to create more modernized access to your IDMS, the Datacom applications and data. Would be interested in talking to you. Obviously, if you have an immediate need or if you have a future interest, or and then certainly if it's not at this time, we understand that as well. But your feedback would be appreciated. So I'll pause a moment.
All right, it is. People are starting to vote, so we'll leave it out there for another 30 seconds or so. All right, let's say another 10 seconds, everybody.
Thanks, Len.
All right, thank you very much, everybody.
Excellent, thank you all. So call to actions, what's next and how can you get started? Well, we started also talking about the Embrace Open workshops, and that's really a great starting point. Not just specific to what we talked about today in regards to the database API generated, but just in general for any new capabilities that you guys may have out there or any customers may have out there, and how we can help kind of get things off the ground and get you up and running. So this is a full, if you're interested in further discussing the opportunity to pursue an Embrace Open workshop, we'd certainly welcome that opportunity for that discussion. So if you could let us know, that would be fantastic, and we appreciate you taking the time to answer the poll.
All right, people are starting to vote. Let's say 10 or 15 more seconds, everybody.
Thank you, Glenn.
All right, thank you very much, everybody.
Excellent, thank you. I have a couple of quick slides here, just reference links, so you'll have access to this presentation after, as Len mentioned, probably tomorrow after the webcast, along with a recording. These are helpful links that will get you started. Certainly, if there's any assistance that we can provide, if you have any questions, the support team is always there to help. We encourage you to participate in the IUA and the cadre community if you're not already a member. We want to hear your voice there as well. And for more information or a deep dive discussion on what we covered today, or just in general, for any IDMS related questions or meetings you'd like to have, reach out to me. And for anything Datacom specific, please reach out to Nikisha Newberry, our PM for Datacom. And with that, it brings us to any questions that the folks may have out there, Glenn.
We do have a couple questions. First, is there any middleware or such software that needs to be installed on the mainframe to support the API?
Dave, if you're on mute, we can't hear you. I'm assuming you want to take that one.
Well, I will. I wasn't sure if somebody else wanted to. Well, I mean, as we mentioned, the Zoe, I don't know if you could consider Zoe middleware that could be installed on the mainframe. You do need to have Java available, on the mainframe, which comes with ZOS now. The metadata server that we described, that would be an API that would typically be installed on the mainframe. It turns out that you can actually install the metadata server on your workstation instead, and so I guess there's the API that you generate, that is the middleware that would sit there between the database and your web applications. So I guess you could think of this as a tool to create the middleware, and the dependencies that it has on all the existing Java, open source software. That's all provided in. We didn't get into this level of architecture in this call, but we provide a couple of common libraries that contain all the open source dependencies. And one of the things I want to point out about this is that that common library is something that we maintain, that we address any vulnerabilities in, because we're using that in our own internal system APIs as well. So it's you get to kind of leverage the sort of the vulnerability mitigation that we do for our own products. You would could leverage that in your own APIs. So I hope that kind of answers the question.
Thanks, Dave. And the other question we have out there is it already available on the VS Code marketplace?
It is not currently available on the VS Code marketplace. It is packaged on our internal, or our customer visible support site, and you can download all the components can be downloaded just like any other solution that you would download for IDMS and Datacom. The extension itself is packaged as what's called a VSIX file. And we have instructions how to install that. So it's not, this is really kind of something that's very unique to IDMS and Datacom customers currently. So it's, we think that that's a good starting point for customers to get it.
Thanks, Dave. I don't see any other questions out there, folks. We do have a couple minutes left, so if you have any other questions, feel free to put them into the questions box. I'll also take this opportunity to remind you about our post-event survey as well. We would love to get some feedback on today's webcast. All right, I don't see anything coming in. Sheila, do you have anything else you want to wrap up with?
No, just thanks again to everybody for participating, and thanks again to Mark for his participation. We truly appreciate it, and I hope everybody has a great rest of the day. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Yep.
Take care.